Introducing one of the founding fathers of the United States and the principal author of the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson's father owned a plantation near Charlottesville, Virginia, which was called Shadwell. Thomas was born in Shadwell on April 13, 1743, and growing up, he became very interested in books. After he finished his studies in college, he was elected to what's now called the Virginia House of Delegates in 1769. When Jefferson's father passed away, he inherited his property and decided to construct a brick mansion that he called Monticello. Believe it or not, but Jefferson did support individual liberty, although he owned quite a few slaves throughout his life. Since we are on the topic of slavery, let's talk about Jefferson's famous words from the Declaration of Independence, "All men are created equal." He obviously did not necessarily mean all men, seeing as how he himself owned slaves. Speaking of the Declaration of Independence, which was ratified on July 4, 1776, Jefferson is known as the author of this famous document, which explained why the 13 colonies wanted to be free from the British Empire. After resigning from the Continental Congress in 1776, which he was a member of while he wrote the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson was re-elected to the Virginia House of Delegates. While a member of this, he had a law passed by Virginia lawmakers called the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom, which to mention Jefferson considered to be one of his biggest achievements. This law was actually a forerunner to the First Amendment of the Constitution. Jefferson did take on a higher position about 3 years after being a member of the Virginia House of Delegates as the governor of Virginia. In 1789, George Washington was the president at the time, and he appointed Jefferson to be the nation's first ever Secretary of State. Now, on to the presidential elections. Jefferson, along with John Adams, were both in the presidential election of 1796, which, unfortunately, Jefferson lost and became the vice president to John Adams. Then, in the presidential election of 1800, Jefferson defeated John Adams, and coming close to another loss, he tied with Aaron Burr. After the House of Representatives votes were in, Jefferson became the third president of the United States. On March 4, 1801, Jefferson was sworn into office and began to achieve even greater things. Since George Washington, the first president, was inaugurated in New York, and John Adams, the second president, was inaugurated in Pennsylvania, Jefferson became the first president to be inaugurated in Washington, D.C. After 16 states were granted statehood, another state was added to our country after President Jefferson allows for Congress to officially grant Ohio statehood on February 19, 1803. Also in 1803, Jefferson decided to take the chance while he had it and expand the country westward. He purchased the Louisiana Territory from Napoleon Bonaparte, which nearly doubled the size of the U.S. at the time. The Constitution did not allow for the purchase of new territory, and although Jefferson tried, he could not fix that problem as soon as he needed to, so he had to purchase the land unconstitutionally, which, by the way, is known to be a huge achievement for him during his presidency. After purchasing the land, Jefferson commissioned Lewis and Clark to explore the western territory of the Louisiana Purchase, which allowed them to reach the Pacific Ocean after almost 18 months. If you remember, Jefferson tied with Aaron Burr in the presidential election of 1800 due to a flaw in the Constitution, and this flaw was fixed in 1804 when the 12th Amendment, which states that the election for president and vice president will be on separate ballots, is ratified. As it was obvious that many citizens were in favor of Jefferson, he was elected to a second term of office and won by a landslide. As we know, Jefferson owned slaves, but he did have the idea to ban slave trade, which went into effect on January 1, 1801. Now, after Jefferson decided not to run for president again, his presidency finally comes to an end, with James Madison becoming the fourth president of the United States. After Jefferson's presidential years, he went back to his home, Monticello. While pursuing his curiosity for life, Jefferson founded the University of Virginia. He devoted a lot of his time into designing the buildings and setting up the curriculum for the school. After finishing his work on the university, he decided that would be an end to his devotion to public service. Jefferson became ill in 1826 after being able to enjoy his popularity for multiple years. Since the books that belonged to the federal government were burned during the War of 1812, Jefferson sold most of his private library to them. Sadly, on the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1826, Thomas Jefferson passed away. Jefferson did believe that his greatest achievements included writing the Declaration of Independence and the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom, as well as being the father of the University of Virginia, all in which he had put on the gravestone that he designed for himself. I believe that it is safe to say that Jefferson did accomplish a lot throughout his presidency, which leads me to say that he was an effective president and he helped shape the foundation of our country. Along with that, I think that many of us can agree that without Jefferson's wise words, the Declaration of Independence might not have impacted our country as much as it did, and with that, Thomas Jefferson's legacy will live on forever.